will live stream. That's the key. Oh my gosh, we're live streaming. Oh, how exciting! How exciting. Hey, my Sparkle sisters, hang on. Let me get my pom-poms here. Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so
Of course you
excited.
have pom-poms. Of course you do.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited for all of my Sparkle sisters to meet one of my very, very best friends. And we're going to give everybody a chance to kind of get on. So I'll just kind of set the stage. Sparkle is a group of women that are, some are part of our Pink Bubble, Pamela, and some are nonprofits and business owners and work from home moms and women that don't know where they're going. And we're all over. We're global, and it's just a chance for every once in a while. I do every week, and
Yeah.
right now I'm doing once a month. And I just wanted them to learn from you. And one of my biggest commitments is to expose my world to the women who have made the greatest impact on who I have become as a wife, as a mom, as a friend, as a as a leader. And I'm so excited for them to meet you. And let me make sure that we are for sure on here. Okay, good. We are on here. And
Good.
yeah, and so we were saying we cannot wait to see where the Lord takes us today.
You know what? We're both so accustomed to preparation and delivery. And I think that, when we first started talking and you invited me, the first thing, was around kind of the tools that had supported me. And then we kind of shifted to how can we better support the people who are listening? And that was my prayer this morning as well, Diana, is that, without agenda, we're having coffee this morning.
Yep.
And so more of just, we'll see where the Lord takes our conversation. But I'm really excited. I'm honored that you would pursue having a conversation together with me. I have such huge respect for you. Never have I seen you with that highest level of energy and the highest priority of the conversation, no matter the difficulty of the topic, the highest priority of the conversation to serve, what serves the situation. And so thank you for just being a woman, a leader, a friend who takes everything to the highest level, no matter what's going on. It is something I'm very grateful for and that I don't take lightly and that I always want to keep in my life.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you. That means I'll have that recorded and put that on playback. And it's so funny. And for y'all that are on here, sometimes the people that I always think about it. Of course, I've told Pamela this a million times. Whenever I was a newer director, and we kind of came up in Mary Kay at the same time,
Yes.
she just chose to do a lot bigger than me. And I can remember, being, I've never been intimidated by anyone, but I just thought, how can you be that beautiful, that faith-filled, that smart, and all of that? And, the old military me, like I wanted to be jealous, but I couldn't because I love the Lord so much, right? But I can remember the first time you and I had an interaction, the conversation shifted me in the way that I thought. And then from that, I truly became your biggest fan because you didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was over like a training center. This person said this and this person said
Oh,
that.
I
Do you
do
remember that? And
remember.
I
I
said,
do.
yeah, I'm like, Pamela, we need to maybe get involved. And you were like, I appreciate how much you love your director, but we were not there, and you and I do not get involved. And she said that is not serving us at all, and we need to conserve our energy. And whenever I went through this with Jerry, which we're going to talk about, I realized I have to measure my energy by the things that I can do. And initially, I'm like, well, you don't love your people like I love my people. And I thought she loves her people more because you empower them and you don't enable them. Do you remember that conversation?
I do remember it now that you mention it. I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we do learn along the way is there's my lane, there's her lane, and there's my calling, there's her calling, there's um, what really do I need to touch in a day? Because one of the key principles of the Design Your Life series that I teach is time invested in one area is time away from another. And so in that conversation, what I remember distinctly is if I can't do it for everybody, I can't do it for one. Otherwise, I set a precedent of constantly enabling and handling all the difficulty instead of equipping people to either stay out of difficult situations or to handle them themselves. And so that's been a minute, Diana. That's been a while.
That has been 20 some years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, almost 25 years ago.
Who's
And
counting?
it was great. And it was, I just challenge all of you all to find people in your life that just think bigger, that are ahead of you in different areas, because you're going to get different advice. What I do want to do though is I want to do your introductions before we go any further, and then I want to tell you about one of my favorite tools that I love as well. But Pamela Waldrop Shaw is so famous in the Mary Kay world, and she did just retire as a national. Yeah, she looks 65. Not, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. That you look like that. Tom and I, in fact, we're just talking out on the porch. We're like, how does Pam look that great in a dress? Like your last year, that last dress, that last year, we're like, oh my gosh, like what a goal poster.
I
And
love that, Tom. You give him a squeeze for me.
we just came back from breakfast. Pamela pursued higher education at the University of Kentucky, where she graduated with a master's in English, a minor in dance. During summer break, she worked at Mammoth Cave National Park in the interpretation division as a tour guide. Upon college graduation from the University of Kentucky, she moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where she taught high school there in the system for 5 years. And she also coached the drill team, the dance team, cheerleaders, choreographed. Like, has always been an overachiever. You'll kind of see the pattern there. She opened the doors to Mary Kay part-time while still teaching. And then 1 year later, she had earned the use of her first career card, left her teaching job to pursue Mary Kay full-time. Since then, went on to be ranked number 10 out of 3.5 million beauty consultants out of 35 different markets. As an inner circle national, y'all, that is like, I mean, truly, it is like the innermost inner circle. She has led over 4,000 women in her organization, trained, coached, mentored countless women on foundational business, people, and leadership skills in and out of Mary Kay. That's why I wanted to do this on Sparkle. Her passion of guiding others to live and find their true identity, to design their lives and live their vision. She has published a 90-day planner and authored a breakthrough goal-setting workshop and a guided prayer journal. Having lost her spouse to ALS almost 19 years ago, Pam is a mother to their 30-year-old son. She has lived in Bowling Green, Kentucky for the past 30 years. And then we're going to put all the places where you can find her. I love your prayer journal.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, so like this is me, like this is all my writing and all this. What I love about it is you basically go through this, obviously everything in 90 days. But one the things that I really loved on this is the work that you've got to do. The reflection, like this, I mean, this takes like a whole day to do. Like I just carve out a Sunday afternoon.
Yes,
and
perfect.
it really does. And there was one on here, like, what is a key behavior? That's going to be one of the questions.
Okay.
I've never figured that one out, but it's got the vision board. In fact, it shifted, Pamela, and then we're going to jump over. I promise not to talk anymore, but it shifted over the calling that I needed more vision. And that's whenever I started the national Bible study, and we started with vision. And so this book here has impacted so much just because of the work that you ask us to do. So talk to us about the core calling on your life, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, Diana, thank you for that. And I'm blessed to hear that the prayer journal blesses you. You know, the calling on my life is to elevate and empower women to know truly who they are, and specifically who they are in Christ. Because when you know who you are, you know what to do. And when you know who you are, you stop comparing yourself to everyone else. And you don't use that same measuring stick because you know that your thumbprint is 1,000,000% unique to you, that your giftedness is unique to you, that your calling is unique to you. And, you know, God calls us to create. If we model what he showed us in the beginning of the world, He created in 6 days and he rested on one. And so we are co-creators with Christ. We have access to his understanding. He designed us, so therefore, who better knows how to tell us how to operate what he designed? So why would we go somewhere else to someone else or try to figure it out on our own? You know, there's nothing else that we would really try to operate that way. And the freedom from knowing who you are and what he's called you to do versus looking at everybody else, listening to everybody else, getting stuck on social media, comparing with everybody else. In Second Corinthians, it tells us we are co-creators with Christ. And so co-creation, what does that mean? If we're meant to create, that means we're also meant to work, also mentioned countless times in the Bible, and then rest on one day. My observation, since COVID, the number one idol of the American people is comfort. And you will find people doing everything they can to stay out of discomfort. They won't set big goals. They won't work hard. They put a priority on balance and rest and not overwhelm and boundaries that keep them protected. And it's all man-made. I saw on Instagram this last week of when I say he's a kid, he's a man now, but Josh Howerton is a pastor, and he is the son of a man who was a pastor years ago when Jerry and I first moved from Florida at the church that we first were a part of here. He's got such depth of wisdom. And I just love hearing him explain the simplicity of the scriptures. It's like, wow, Josh. But today he was talking about how, the enemy is not the great tempter. In Revelation, it says he's the great accuser. And so if he can accuse me of the worst thing that I've done or thought or said or been, then the accusation becomes the definition of who I am. And that's the trick. Whereas God speaks not shame, but creation and forward and future. And so I feel really called to invite people into the understanding of who they are and all that beauty that comes with it. And of course, Mary Kay was a beautiful launching pad for that for 39 years. Prior to that, teaching in the public school system was a beautiful launching pad for that. Gave it to, teenagers and at the season, the world is an opportunity. So I'm just very highly motivated to stay on that message.
So true. I've not heard that about the comfort, but that is so true. I mean, I even find like in our world, you can be really lazy. Like you could, back when we used to only hold events in person, like people had to show up. But when we started working online, it was like, well, it doesn't matter because we can always live stream it. Like we did not develop the relationships. We did not coach. We did not, because we could always just, well, we'll just send it to them. Even though we knew they probably wouldn't watch it, we just got so comfortable with that. Where are some other places that you're kind of seeing this bent toward comfort, bent toward lazy, bent toward the easy way, of which nothing good has ever come, right?
Right. Right. Well, I'm a big fan of a solid counselor. Actually, I have a counselor. And when I say I'm a fan of a counselor, that means I'm a fan of the brain. I'm a fan of neuroscience. I'm a fan of the way God designed us. I'm a fan of the uniqueness of how he designed us to think, act, and react and respond and serve. I'm not a fan of modern day psychology that just puts a big bubble around and creates protection. There's nothing about something that says, okay, I'm going to put a boundary around this because that behavior, I just don't have any space for that. We lower our capacity for resilience when we don't have to deal with hard things or difficult people. Now, I also am very clear that at some point you dust your feet off at the doorstep of a person who doesn't want mentorship from you, who doesn't want wisdom from you. They just want you. They don't want any advice. They don't want any guidance. They don't want any accountability. I have dusted my feet off at the doorpost of other people's lives, but that's not because I can't handle it or because it's uncomfortable or because I'm losing resilience. There's a whole different reason. So I think comfort started obviously during COVID for obvious reasons. We had to figure it out. We had to learn how to get on camera. We've done that masterfully. Cute on the top, comfy on the bottom. I mean, that is a piece of our lifestyle. There you have it. Yeah, yeah, there you have it. So, and I have no opposition with that. But you know what, Diana? I know that you're not going to trade that for an in-person relationship. You're not going to trade that for an experience with people where they can feel your energy. And so when we started trading that off and really dialing it into my comfort, everything changed. And so that bleeds into, where else do I choose comfort over grit and resilience? Where else do I choose comfort over learning, which happens out of your comfort zone? Where else do I choose comfort when, in fact, being in the tension of what I know and what I don't know is the thing that's going to elevate or qualify me for more? And I really, as I've thought about it, and the Lord brought it to me in my quiet time once, which is, the greatest comfort today of the American people, the greatest idol. I was looking at idols, the idols of the Egyptians, the idols of the Israelites as they moved and tried to, work it all out, the idols that we see all throughout the Bible, Old and New Testament. What are our idols? I believe comfort is the number one idol that we protect at all costs. And
Well,
the
and
leader,
social media, I mean,
yeah,
it really puts it up on a pedestal. Like,
yeah,
how little can I do to
yeah,
be successful, or I don't feel good? Because you and I are both called to Gen Z and Gen A. Like, we're both so in love with this generation.
yeah,
And really, our banner is don't quit.
right,
Like, don't quit. Like, that
right,
is not, you're never going to grow if every time it's hard and it doesn't feel right, you're going
right.
to miss the lessons that the Lord wants for
Yeah,
you from here. It doesn't mean you got to do it forever, but doggone,
right.
you just can't just keep jumping on that.
Yeah. If I don't feel good, let me look at something else. What did I eat today? How did I move my body today? What did I look at or scroll or listen to today? What was the input that was unhealthy for me that's giving me this tremendously uncomfortable feeling? It's not just the action of the thing. There were 10 other variables that I can control. Get the sugar out, get the alcohol out, get a good night's sleep, stop scrolling for 24 hours, other people's highlight reels, and comparing myself. So many other places where I can make a correction or a tweak to elevate my health, elevate my mindset, and still grow in the discomfort. You can't be uncomfortable in everything. So if you start off with the really bad habits of all those other things and then add discomfort, it's like, oh, I'm just going to turn everything off. And that doesn't work. It
Mhm.
only works for a minute. And then you feel just as alone, just as sad, just as broken when you disconnect that way from everybody else. In fact, even more so, we were built for community.
Yes.
It's a big connection. That's a big piece of how God designed humanity. And so, this isolation, this separation, this comfort it's not serving people well, and it will not play out long term.
Right. And that's why, really you and I, again, kind of coming back to, the women that we have the privilege of speaking into, is to um, make having grit, being in the culture of commit and not the culture of quit. Like, we grew up and we were trained by Mary Kay herself. And like what was admired was grit,
Yeah.
determination, working to the last minute, coming out of your comfort zone. And from that, we changed like the ripple effect. We always talked about the ripple effect, right? The ripple effect is that for us and our people that were taking that journey with us,
Yeah.
they were forever changed financially, spiritually, and emotionally, because you and I come from the same background, not horrific poverty, but enough that
Modest.
how we live now is totally different than
Yes.
our family. And that would have never happened if we would have grown up in this mediocre. I was saying, like in my poem, I was
Right.
talking about meandering in the maze of mediocrity. Like you and I are like you got to get out of the maze of mediocrity. There's a
Right.
land of excellence, and it is not crowded there.
Right.
Um, what would you speak into that? And for the leaders that are
Yeah.
on here, what are some things that they could do to create that environment in their home, in their nonprofits, in their ministry, in their
Yeah.
business that starts to raise the standard to admire grit?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's one of the most important things is just understanding the value of grit and resilience. You talked about how we were both raised in, rural, hardworking parents. Our vacations were to state parks. Um, the only national park I had ever visited as a child was Mammoth Cave, only because it was 15 minutes from home. And I think that, what we also have come to understand as leaders who have cast that vision and stayed in the hunt is the number of lives we've been able to change and the number of household earnings we've been able to elevate and the growth that takes place in people like us or even people who started out in more modest means than even we started out to create experiences. I saw a post today from one of our friends who said it was like a list of maybe 30 countries or highlights in around the world and that most people in their lifetime will see 5 of them. She had counted 22 that she had seen and experienced. And as I scanned at it really quickly, I counted at least 20. If I went back, I missed a couple. But the fact that the work and the vision gave us a chance to experience more than we would ever have experienced. So I think it comes down to vision, Diana. If I'm protecting myself, well, let me just say this. In true identity, you are in a connection world. In outside of your identity, you're in a separation world. And the separation simply means there's not enough, I'm not enough, it's not enough. It's a matter of lack in the mindset moving forward. Whereas in a connected worldview, we don't look for certainty. We're not addicted to certainty. We are absolutely embracing the journey and understanding that when you put it all out there, and when you bring your best in the uncertainty, but in your true identity and in full community where you're cheering other people on and not competing with other people, great things start to unfold. Find a Bible story with a leader who varies from that model and it's not in there. So for me, it truly is without a vision, the people will perish. Without a vision, the leader will stagnate. Without a vision, nobody will follow. I mean, find me an inspirational story where it says the leader needed to take a break. And so she made an announcement and she got off social media and she's protecting herself. And that's somebody you can follow. It's not there. It's not there. We have to learn how to live in the real world with pain points and challenges and triggers and disappointment in order to take a step forward. 39 years, it's looked like this. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 3 steps back, 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's never been, 40 years of 50, of steps forward. It's always been the back and forth. And it's the back that creates growth, resilience, grit, faith, character. So I say, instead of looking at, question is simply this, am I self-protecting? Am I self-promoting? If I'm self-promoting, I think there's not enough for everybody. If I'm self-protecting, I think there's just not enough of me. And
Mm.
so the opposite of that is to be completely in community and to operate under, I don't know, one of my favorite scriptures is in Ephesians, I think it's 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome word come out of your mouth except what is good for building others up according to their needs, not according to my need. And then my life scripture, 1 Thessalonians 5:11, continue then encouraging one another and lifting each other up, just as in fact you are doing. And the scripture that follows down in verse 18 is like, give thanks in everything, for the Lord is faithful and he will do it. That's an expression of faith. I don't have to do it. I don't have to be the smartest in the room. I don't have to be the most successful in the room. I just have to be the most obedient for where God has called me now. And when I know more, I will trust more.
That is so true. I love that in First Thessalonians. Yeah, that's so fun. It was fun. Dakota, my granddaughter, is putting together something for a friend, and she called and asked for scriptures today. And I had called up, best scriptures, to encourage college. And I'm not, this isn't college. Like, this is just being human.
Right.
All
Right.
about lifting up for sure.
Yeah.
And I know we've got a couple questions on here too, but one of the things that I want to do in my book, y'all know this because I obviously am Pam's #1 fan, like I told you, is I want to read a portion of your speech. And what I loved is that you also put this in your final speech, which absolutely rocked the Mary Kay world. Sorry for anybody else has to follow you. So there we go. But here's one of the things that I want to dig into. It says, live intentionally. What entertains you trains you,
Thank you.
right? And then and you say what you listen to, music, news, sermons, speeches, professors, pastors, mentors, leaders, politicians, what you watch, YouTube, Facebook, TV, Netflix, HBO, Snapchat, Instagram, what you read, the Bible, books, articles, how you occupy your time doing nothing, sleeping, eating, overeating, studying, reading, gaming, serving, what holding a party, it trains your thoughts. So let's talk about this statement here. What entertains you trains you. Talk to us
Yeah.
about that.
Well, first of all, congratulations again on your book. I know it's not brand new, but it's such a nod to excellence and discipline. Everybody has an idea for a book. Not everybody finishes a book. So really, congratulations. And I hope the people that follow you and who you lead understand what a big deal that is, Diana, to have accomplished that at the stage of your journey that you did. So I admire that greatly. That phrase, what entertains you, trains you. Um, there's so many scriptures in the word that talk about our focus and where we look. And under the armor of God scripture section, it tells us to guard our hearts and to armor up so that we're fully equipped for the day, for the relationships. We're told in scripture that the difficulty or the argument, we're not fighting against flesh and blood. It's not us against other people. We're fighting against the principalities. And so therefore we get stuck on the wrong things. And so I can tell you, if I am too long on my Instagram, I will feel an anxiety. I feel it. I know what it is. Now I recognize it. And now I know where it's coming from. Even if it's just the people that I enjoy following, sometimes it can still get intense, right? About how things are going or how the world is going or what happened today. And, sometimes it's just like, no, that is not beneficial. And so that really becomes the question. Not is it good or is it bad? Is it right or is it wrong? Is it moral or immoral? Should this habit belong to a follower of Christ or not? It's not any of that early, churchy discrimination. It's not that. Is it beneficial? Does it bring out the best in me, which in turn brings out the best in others? And if it doesn't do that, because what entertains me trains my spirit. What trains my spirit trains my thinking. What trains my thinking will come out of my mouth. Nobody has enough discipline in the world to hold back what they're truly thinking. It will eventually spill out. And so I just think it's worth considering. Today, we have so much exposure to everyone's opinion, and you can write on Facebook and make yourself an authority and have absolutely no knowledge, no wisdom, no authority, no experience, but write it in a way. Now, AI can write it for you, making you even look even like you actually know what you're talking about. Talk about deception. We are deceived if we give into everything we see, everything we read, everything we consume, because it all does eventually come back out. And so I just choose to be more mindful. Conversations, I'm more mindful. Where I share time, I'm more mindful. And the older you get, the smaller your intimate circle gets because you understand these things.
That is so true. I know you and I, we've had so many conversations that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And
Walking, talking.
exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're both getting our miles in. I think that in the world that we live in now, I do think that that is a big deal for those that are part of teams. If you're, and just kind of going back to our pink bubble, for leaders here, I would challenge you that if you look at the Facebook groups and the Voxer groups and the messenger groups you're in, would you give that to your new consultant to give her a vision of where this company's going? And if not, then you got to get off of it. And I will tell you that there is a joke in the Mary Kay world. Like if there is anything negative, they're like, Di's tapping out. Like, and I said, it's not just that. Like it's everything. I'm like that in church. I'm like that with my family. Like I just do not have time for that. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I think that I don't know that people really knew so much until you said this is that we're giving authority to people who haven't earned it.
Right.
I think about us growing up under Mary Kay Ash, you had to earn the mic, right?
Right.
You had to earn that mic. Like nobody talked vision unless you were living in vision. And now it's just who is loud, who's creative, who's cute, now is determining what is good and what is not. So I'm going to challenge, regardless of where you're coming from, where you're sitting at today, is, at your church. Like this was pretty transparent, but we were at church 3 weeks ago, and I work with students on Wednesday nights. One of the things I love just almost more than air. And there was a decision that went on. It was not a big deal, but for whatever reason, I just didn't like it. And then I asked my friend about it, who I knew wouldn't like it, and she didn't like it. And then I asked another friend, I'm like, "Have you think about that?" And then no lie, the daggone service is on what? Gossiping. So
Ah,
in the middle, I'm like, I am so sorry. I could not have served Satan anymore had I not opened up the gates of hell. That does not bring us closer to the Lord, and God has got that worked out. And I have to tell you that before it got its fingers in me, do you know what I'm saying? Like there, and so we laugh about it all the time. We're like zip, and
yeah.
so we're like we really want to have an idea of, are our words lifting up everyone? Like, I don't know why they did shirts like they did shirts, but who cares
Right. Is
that
it
I
worth the
would,
battle?
what
Is it
I'm
worth the
saying?
battle to have the
Right.
conversation? Right.
Mhm. And the
Yeah.
same thing like in church and in friendships and in family and those kinds of things. I just think it is such a big deal. And I'm going to read some of the questions if you don't mind.
Sure, sure.
I had some
I just
people
want to say
turn
before you
in
do
some
that, I want
questions.
to say before you do a question, Diana,
Yeah.
that the transparency of what you just described, I think that some people assume that when you get to a certain place, a position, a title, an age, that you no longer are tripped up by these moments. And that's just not true. We will always be tripped up by the moment. And so it's what we do in the moment of awareness or recognition, and then, the humility of, wow, imagine without the Lord's, spirit correcting me, where would I be? And so just grateful that you are surrounded by like-minded people who show grace and who, move forward with you in the learning. I mean, I think that's a beautiful example because we don't have it all together. We're not finished yet. We're still on this journey.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you. See, this is why I love being with her. I always feel so good. And I hope that y'all do as well. A young woman, her name is Cray Agaboyi. I think I have that right. She said, for the class on May 7th, I'd love to know how you incorporate, you're going to love this question, fitness consistently in your busy life. I thought you will do a cartwheel. This is like one of your favorite questions, right? The only other one is, how do you work faith into all that? But we're going to start with fitness. So Pamela,
Yeah.
here's some things that you do that you are
Yeah.
set up to win in the fitness part of our
Yeah.
life. Talk to us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, well, Craig, I have really strong boundaries around wellness because I really know with all my heart that what I consume in terms of food and nutrition, what I consume with my eyes and ears, those matter. What I do with my body in terms of movement, it matters. What I do with sleep, it matters. And so I have very strong, what I call frame your day structures. And the frame your day, both in the prayer journal and the 90-day planner, are the first 2 hours of your morning and the last hour of your day. You start the first 2 hours of your morning with structure and you live it in a designed way. So therefore the phrase design your life. So what is the highest leverage of the first 2 hours of my day? Well, for me, it is getting up, and I'm gonna walk you through some really specific things. It's having warm water with lemon and electrolytes before I have a cup of coffee, because there are scientific implications behind that. It is having my quiet time before the Lord. It is having a devotional, a Bible reading, journaling, and then a study before I do anything else. So my workout clothes are part of the evening frame. They get laid out, like I'm talking socks, panties, jog bra, all gets laid out, sweatshirt, whatever the weather's going to be tomorrow, it's all laid out on my heated floor. Like, I don't have a heated floor. You have a dryer, throw them in the dryer in the morning. There's no, we're not with excuse. And so that way I try to create what I call guardrails so that I don't have to make a decision twice. If I have my workout clothes laid out and I have a gym membership where my workout buddies are there at 8 o'clock along with the trainer, I'm not going to waste my money by not going. And if I don't go in the morning at 8, I will not do it later in the day. So virtually nothing disrupts that schedule. And so I just build it in, like, you brush your teeth, I go to the gym. You eat your breakfast, I go to the gym. And that's 5 days a week. And then on the weekend, I'm active. I have raised garden beds that I take care of and walk. And I'll try to get at least one 10,000 step day in on the weekend as well, in addition to the workout. It's what you make a priority. So there is no TV on in my house ever between wake and, I'm going to say, 6:30 at night. With my son at night, we'll turn on sports. We love football season, so sports, or we love all seasons. Um, he's watching more NBA right now. I don't love it until it gets down to the Final Four for NBA. It's just it's like the playoffs to the playoffs to the playoffs to the playoffs, like they last forever. But or The Voice, our American Idol, we'll watch an hour of that together. Literally, there's no TV on in my house. So I don't have other noise coming in. So the structure of my day is something that I have designed. I have either praise music on, or maybe Carrie Underwood country, or sometimes classical piano. And I have throughout my house Sonos speakers, so that the same thing is playing throughout the house, that wherever I go, it plays the same things. These are things I have designed. But the workout piece, the fitness piece, goes back to when my late husband passed. He was a triathlete and a football player at the University of Florida. And so we kind of, when we met, we were in an athletic lifestyle. He passed from Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, which takes every physicality away from you. So from first symptom to death was about 18 months, and it rocked our worlds. And so to be able to understand, I get to work out. There was a time when Jerry would have loved to have worked on the computer, but his fingers wouldn't work. Came a time when his legs, he would love to have walked outside, but he couldn't walk. And so when you recognize how brief life is and what a privilege it is to live in a healthy body without pain and to be able to work out, one of my really good friends, Leah, she asked her mother, who's probably about my age, but Leah and I are like really good friends, what was one thing that her mother regretted as she aged. And her mother's answer was not holding on to muscle. And I'm like, I will hold on to muscle. So I measure it. I measure my body fat, and I know what it is. And it's pretty good for a chick who's in her 60s.
It's like non-existent.
But that, Diana, is the process of accumulation. There was a day, I'll tell you about a day. Thomas was, I don't know, 5 or 6. We were in the swimming pool outside, and I'm like, hey, you want to go get donuts? We didn't have one in Bowling Green. We didn't have Krispy Kreme in Bowling Green. We had to literally get out of the pool, dry off, drive to Nashville, an hour away, get Krispy Kreme donuts, and we got 2 boxes because we knew we would eat a box on the way home, me leading the pack. So I can mess up with the best of them, but that's not a part of my current life. So it's deciding what is for you and what is not. I like foods that like me back. I like workouts that like me back. I like people who like me back. I like a designed day that likes me back, brings out the best in who I am. So I just decide, is this going to be a part of my life? Every year you age, you lose the capacity to build muscle. But if you build it now to hold on to it, it's much easier.
Yeah. That's so true. And, you're 65, I'll be 62, like, and it comes fast for you
Fast,
that are younger. Like, truly, last week we were 30, 2 weeks
100%,
ago we were in our 20s. And so,
100%.
but one of the things you also said many years ago that really stuck with me was just like compound interest on money, that compound interest on health
Yeah,
will pay off. Like, in other words, when you're in your 60s and 70s, you will have the health
yeah,
that you built without, I mean, there's certain things in there, but as
sure,
a whole,
sure.
you're paying dividends, or you're doing your investment right now in your 20s, 30s, and 40s
Yes.
that will pay off one way or the other when you get to be our age.
It will show up. It will show up. It will show up one way or the other. And I've heard so many functional medicine doctors say disease starts like by the time you get a symptom, disease has been well underway and unwinding things. And so, it's just staying in front of, I can't control. So, I can't control all of those things, but I can make choices that are in alignment with an expected outcome.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then we'll kind of move from there. One of the other things that, you never know who's watching, y'all. So always, whenever I get to talk to Pamela, I get to always tell her, this is what I learned from you, and she didn't know she was teaching. And I can remember it was one of the several times that we taught together. I'm going to see if I can pull up this crazy picture. Let me see if I can find it. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Dadgummit. I don't know if I thought I had it here. So this is, I'm going to pull this up really quick. It's so embarrassing.
Oh
Pamela,
no.
great. This is me back when I don't even know what the heck I was thinking on my hair, but it's just really funny. But I have to show y'all this picture. Hold on. Let me share this. It's so silly. I was trying to find some, and we got some great ones, but for whatever reason, the Lord wanted me to find this one. But this is where we were at. This is whenever we taught new nationals
Oh,
together. Oh my gosh, like look at this.
oh my word.
Look at
I remember that. Oh,
exactly the
Diana.
same. Look at that. I just bought the girls there. So they were pretty
I was
proud.
gonna say they're perky, girl.
They were 50. That's what I paid for. There you go. But my point of that is I remember the first time that we were there teaching new nationals together was somebody asked, did you want this dessert? And you did not say, I can't do that. You said, well, I could have that. However, that just opens up the door that of sugar. That means I'm going to have to go through the detox again, and that's just not worth it. And I love that you don't live in denial, that you live in choice. And I know that's in every area of your life. Can you talk a little bit more about the power of words,
Yeah.
of how you can have peace and still have guardrails?
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. Um, well, what you speak out of your mouth is an overflow of your heart. And if you don't have any self-control, restriction, self-discipline in the process of your day, then literally it's a free-for-all. And so if you don't stand for something, then literally everything has entrance. So let's just take the sugar piece. I grew up with a mother who baked and a home economics teacher. And because of the timing of my childhood and hers, she taught full-time home economics and was a full-time homemaker, and she just did it all. She was like Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart because she felt like she had to prove her worth as a mother and homemaker in order to work outside of the house. And so she was just like out there. Like I'll never catch up with her capacity for productivity ever. And I honestly don't want to, but at 93, she lives at home. She, cooks and cleans for herself. And, she showed me the other day, I know I'm getting off topic, but I was over there the other day and I had taken her some things that I'd made. Her love language is acts of service. I only learned that about 10 years ago, but she was talking about a friend of hers who fell and couldn't get up. She goes, if I fell, I think I could get up. And I said, well, Mom, of course you could. She goes, let me show you. And so she gets down on the floor and shows me how she would get up. She did yoga for years before COVID, just to strengthen her core, and showed me exactly how she could get up. She's 93 on the floor. She rolls over, does a downward dog, stands up. She goes, don't you think I could get up? I'm like, I'm so confident you can get up. Okay, that doesn't happen accidentally with a 93-year-old. And so I've had this role model of choices I make today will accumulate and they will show up again tomorrow. And so I've been someone, Diana, that understands addiction. You know, my son has been through addiction and recovery, and I hated it. As someone who really alcohol was never important to, I didn't understand it, and it just made me mad. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot on Thomas's recovery journey, but I was also very clear that my addiction to sugar could easily be married to his addiction to alcohol, and that the way alcohol showed up in his body, sugar showed up in my body. Wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. And when I could recognize the world doesn't have a prejudice against the addiction of sugar. Nobody's going to say, oh, she's a sugarholic and have a label attached to it in the same way that they would say an alcoholic. And so I became very humbled with many of my own choices, journeying with my son on he's now 5 years alcohol sober, addiction, and was able to recognize that just because the world didn't give it a title didn't mean that it wasn't good for me. And so in that season, and that's been a long time, when it first started, he was 12 when Jerry died. And so right behind Jerry's death came Thomas's addiction. And so I think just being honest, hey, if something's not good for you, if a food doesn't like you back, and the anxiety and depression and mood swings that followed my sugar consumption, even moderate, were they were just not God honoring. They just weren't the best. And it's not that I'm judgy. Will I never eat a brownie? Oh, are you kidding me? Of course I'll eat a brownie. I won't eat a pan of them anymore. But day to day to day, it's never the one donut. It's not the one piece of pie. It's what you do day after day after day. So I've learned how to prioritize protein. If anybody's curious about that, I really focus on getting at least 100 to 115 grams of protein a day, which is very satiating and builds muscle, has enough amino acids to do it. And when you've eaten that much protein, there's really no room for anything else. So I've learned over time, and as science has evolved, there are ways to manage it.
Yeah, I just went to Amanda Decker here and just got on the bioidentical hormones. And, she asked me, she said, tell me, what did you eat today? And I'm like, oh,
Good.
what a bummer.
Good doctor who starts out with that question.
That's right. And she's like, Diana, you need like 70 to 90 grams of protein. And what you've had in the last 2 days is like none.
And it's like, so easy.
Right. And once your mind is open to that, and I do not crave the sugar. And so it is so fun. So we would challenge all of you all to do a little research in that, because that is so good as well. So we're going to do like a rapid 5-minute question, and then have you, then we'll go through this. I hope y'all have enjoyed this as much as me. All right. Chelsea Jones asked, how do you pivot and plan when the things that used to work in a business or a nonprofit or at home, whatever that is, that things that used to work don't work best anymore?
Yeah. So one, recognize that what you're doing is not working in the same way that it used to. And then ask this question, Lord, what do I need to know about this situation that is going to give me greater traction in a way that used to? Listen, whatever comes to your imagination, start considering that as a pathway for an answer. We are co-creators with Christ. So it doesn't work, recognize it. Ask the question, what do I need to know today about whatever the topic is that's not working anymore? Listen to what's said. Most of the time we have an answer, like almost immediately. Then what follows is, am I willing to put that into action? What is it going to cost me? An image, time, what's it going to cost? And then we go from there.
Yes, that's so true. Willing is my word. And so like in my Bible study every day, I write the word willing.
I love it.
Just to remind me of that is, that's so true, because we do know the answers. I love that. Are you willing? Liz Doyle says, how do we fine tune our efforts to build the kind of consistency that moves the needle?
Yeah. It's focus. When I get uncomfortable, I don't go shopping. When I get uncomfortable, I don't take a weekend away because I need a weekend away. When I get uncomfortable, I don't say yes to three other people to do three other things apart from the thing that I'm on. When I get uncomfortable and someone calls and says, "Hey, can you babysit my kids today?" I say, "You know what? I would love to support you in the future. We'll need to plan that, but today is not a day that I can do that." I can say no to someone else's agenda in order to say yes to the one God has given to me and not feel guilty about it. Focus is the thing. People do not have focus. They lose focus and they're, well, I'm just going out of town for 3 days. When I go out of town for 3 days, I come back. It takes me a day and a half to go back and look at my planner and remember what I forgot, remember what I picked up. Oh my gosh, I didn't call her. I didn't go text that. And it takes, so now there's a 2 day catch up from a 3 day off. That's 5 days off of a 30-day month. When you do that every single month in some capacity, you don't have the focus to go the difference, which is why you have to learn how to say no to someone else's agenda in order to say yes to the one God has given you. For many people, that is very uncomfortable.
I love that. I love that. Yes. And right, your procrastination does not need to be my emergency. For all of
No.
us who are fixers, for sure. Deanna Loudon says, what's the best way to keep your sparkle and share it when others around you are buying into lack and downturns? Well, I think we kind of hit this a little bit, but I'd love for you to kind of drill down on that as well, because we can find as much evidence of downturn and negative as we can of upturn and positive. It just where you turn, what Lisa Turkers always says, where you stare is where you steer, right?
Yeah.
Pamela, speak into this because this is a big deal.
Well, I think you mentioned earlier, Diana, to really check the number of Facebook groups, Voxer groups, Instagram follows. Whose voice are you watching? Because I didn't even look at my portfolio when the stock market went down. I didn't look at it. It's going to come back, and it did come back and it is still coming back, but I didn't even look at it. Why look at it? What's the point? So again, what and who are you listening to? I don't believe we're in a downturn. I don't believe that the industry is in trouble. I believe that we are with a large volume of potential leaders who are not willing to do what it takes, which includes putting on the blinders. I don't know if y'all watched the Kentucky Derby on Saturday or not. Yes. If you did, you know that sovereignty beat journalism. Sovereignty beat
Journalism.
journalism. Sovereignty beat journalism. I'm going to call it a little bit of a wink.
I did not put that together until just now. That is really good. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
And all the horses had on blinders. A horse without blinders on will go off the track, create the grass track, go up into the stands. A horse without blinders, the horse is only looking at what's directly in front of me. And they're all ridden by an expert who is demanding the best from them. So if that is not a configuration you willingly set up, the winner's circle might not be for you. If you'd rather look at who's failing, who's lacking, what's not working, what's going to happen, if you're going to look at that, fear is not an emotion from the Lord. And so you've got to choose where you look. It comes back to that level of focus and trust. So a horse will run hard. A horse will run straight. If the blinders are on, the focus is clear, being led by a leader who is demanding the best.
I'm so glad this is going to be on YouTube so we can do some hashtags with that. Wow. Sovereignty beat journalism. That is, I cannot wait to run up and tell Tom that. That's so funny. What is your favorite book in shifting mindset? Like if you think about, obviously we know the Bible for sure. And I do want you to pull out your 90-day planner to show that. And then we'll do a link for that too. But what are some other books that you might suggest to people who are like, I'm ready to change my mindset. I want to be, thinking more abundantly. What's some of your favorites?
You know what, Diane? I just put together, believe it or not, an Amazon store, an Amazon seller account. I guess it's at Pamela Shaw. I don't even know how to find other people's stores, but if you guys know how to do that, I just made one of books. And they're the more recent books that I have. If we're going to go all the way back to, I would say Dr. John Maxwell, Developing the Leader Within You. Just a great basic book. If we're going to go to a life-changing, what is the name God calls me and how do I live in my true identity? Living Fearless by Jamie Winship. I just read it 2.5 years ago on Labor Day weekend, and it wrecked me in the best of ways. So there are so many more. Craig Groeschel's books are amazing. The Courage to Change, Ed McManus, Mind Shift.
Yes.
I know what to do, but so why am I not doing it? What's the author of that one? There are many good books, but I would say start from where you are, which is a variety of different places. Um, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many good.
I mean,
My very first one I ever read was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
absolutely.
The first book, first time probably anybody in my family tree had ever thought the thought that you don't say what's on your mind with no
Right.
friend. Like, didn't even know that was even an option.
An option. Yeah. Yeah. And The Greatest Salesman. I mean, that's another,
Oh, that was
just
Mary Kay's
classic.
favorite.
Yeah.
Bob Mandino,
The Slight Edge. The Slight Edge is an extraordinary small book.
Right,
Yeah.
There's so many.
You're like me. I have a stack going downstairs, upstairs, in here, and I have Audible going. And so I'm rarely in, when I'm walking or driving, there's rarely anything else on except for learning. And then the morning is when I choose complete silence. And outside of that, it's really learning, but it's never junk. It's never news. Anybody's news. CNN, Fox, it's never news. It doesn't matter. It's just, I'm not going to let mainstream media tell me how to think.
Right. Yeah, I just asked Tom, is there anything I need to be concerned about? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right, as we wrap up, Mary Beth Hundley had asked the question, how did she know she was ready to retire? Now, one of the things in our world, as nationals at 65, we do retire, but what a lot of people don't realize is that once we've served for 15 years, we could retire at full benefits. So every year as a national, we get to look and decide, do I want to stay or do I want to go? And Mary Kay set it up that way.
Yeah.
So our retirement is a little bit different in that case, but I do think it would be a great way to kind of wrap up, because to have lived a life well lived makes looking at retirement, which is really a relaunch, totally different than the world. So let's wrap up with that and show us your 90-day planner, because I think these gals need to get this for sure.
Well, Mary Beth, the way I knew I was ready to retire, like Diana said, at 65, it is a natural time to retire, and it's a very common time to retire in Mary Kay. Could I have stayed longer? Yes. If I stayed another year, I would lose 2 years of the 15 on the other end. So I looked at it financially and with my energy and my own desires and desires God's planted on my heart. Did it make sense? And it didn't make sense. And I really am at a stage in my life where I want to work with people who are serious, not curious, with people who are contributors, not consumers, and with people who are not offended by the high standards that I hold for my own life. I don't project them onto other people, but who are inspired to consider their own standards for their own life. It energizes me. So the 90-day planner has been a part of my journey now, Diana, for let's see, been a national 25 years. And so for 3 before that, 28 years. And I designed it to keep myself focused. I had taken courses with Franklin Planner and Daytimer and other popular planners at that time, and none of them included the capacity to put your goals. And this one's really put together really well. This is the front. I use a lot of color. And I will tell you that part of the secret for me is typing some things out and printing them just so that they're there where I want them to be. These are vision statements, mission statements, 168 hours in a week. I've broken it down: 56 sleep, 12 meals. I've broken it even further. 1 day times 7, 2 on Sunday, and 3 hours out. 10 hours quiet time, 5:30 to 7, 2 church hours, 3 friends and family, 10 exercise, dress and drive, 12 reading, Thomas evening, 7 social media, only 1 hour a day do I give myself, 40 hours work, 10 plus 5 plus 4 weekend, shower and dressing 5, two errands. I send somebody else out. That's 159. That leaves me with 9 hours. What am I going to do with those 9 hours? That's something that I review all the time because God's word tells us in Psalm 90 to be good stewards of the time that he gives us, and that will earn a heart of wisdom. Then this part is add 5 years to your life. What would your Diana 67,
60,
8?
68.
Are you
5 years.
62? 67-year-old.
Yeah.
What would your 67-year-old self thank you for doing, thinking, achieving, and sacrificing? So there's a lot of very thoughtful pieces in the front, a lot of color. There's a blank calendar for you to track. And then the daily pages, they're just, I color code mine because I think it's fun. The red things are things that I check off. Where there's an arrow, where there almost always is, means goes to the next day, didn't get done. And then there's a weekly plan sheet in between every 7 days. So the unique qualities of the 90-day planner are: you think it all through, you pray it all through, you write it all out. Now I have a master plan. Then you start to implement one of 7 days. At the end of 7 days that you've designed, after you've taken a goal and you said, okay, I have a year-long goal. And then what's that going to look like the first 90 days? And then I'm going to break that down to a month, and then down to a week, and down to today. What needs to happen? It allows you to do that. It invites you to do that. It self-directs you to do that. At the end of 7 days, the unique section in between is called the recalibration section. And it's just 3 pages of really recalibrating, re-asking, was basically, how did the week go? What did I do well? Where did I succeed? Where did I fail? Where did I fall short? What can I do better? And so you literally recalibrate the whole week and the whole month. Let's see, it says reflect, review, rewrite, reconsider, realign, roll over what didn't get done last week, reprioritize, redesign, and recommit. And then you start the new week again. When you approach goal setting that way, you have a master plan from the beginning that God has prayerfully downloaded into your heart, what you really want. Doesn't matter if you can see it. Your biggest problem today is not your circumstances. It's the faith to see something through that you cannot see. Stop being addicted to a known outcome and get excited about becoming and the journey. And so you put it all together, and then you execute a week, and then the space between 7 days. Now you're reviewing your goals 52 times a year, not New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day, 52 times a year. At the end of 90 days, you have to go back to the very front, write it all out again. Why? Because your brain and it kicks in. You learn differently when you're forced to do that. When I hear people say, I don't really have time to do that, I say, okay, well, enjoy being the same, because you have lots of time to be the same. And so if you want to stay the same, you can do it your way. Because basically what you're saying is, I don't have time to interrupt being the same, even though I'm not happy with it at all. I don't have 30 minutes a weekend to recalibrate and make sure that I'm on course. So when I say it that way, you're like, oh, when you put it that way, it's kind of like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know it's 12 o'clock. I know we've all got to jump off. Totally exceeded everything that I hoped and prayed for today. I will be posting up, or Pamela there, if you want to go ahead, you can put that in there. All of the ways that y'all can order the Design Your Life, the prayer journal. Listen to this. We will get it turned into a YouTube link to be able to share. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
helping us be
Diana.
the best version of ourselves. I love you so much, Pamela. Thank you all so much today.
I love you too, friend. Happy day. Bye, everybody.